changed a lot even in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's really different. Even, I mean, every time I go back, there's something different.
Yeah.
There goes my halo.
New highway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I grew up, we had so many strawberry fields and stuff. And
Oh, really?
even now,
I was watching The
I'll go
Natural
and I'll
last
do,
night. If
like,
we backlit
in the
that app,
orchards
we
and
might
stuff.
be able to.
Even now I'll go and
Not
I'll be
shit
like,
in it.
okay, I'm gonna go to
Mhm.
the strawberry
Like
stand.
Glen Cozy.
And I'll be like,
Not there.
you know, or the stand will be there, but it's around buildings. and
This parking
stuff,
lot.
and it's like, do these strawberries come from Albertsons or?
It's repackaging. Yeah. Charge you twice what they're worth.
Yeah.
All right, we'll call this special meeting to order for USD 348 Board of Education. At this time, I'd invite you to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this time, may I have an approval of the agenda, please?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Carrie has moved and Chris has seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, public comment. At this time, we'll have public comment, which is an agenda item for any student, patron, or staff member to have the opportunity to share topics of interest or just to make a comment to the board. This is the only time during the meeting that a person can discuss an item with the board and share their opinion. Generally, the board does not respond to topics shared at this time inasmuch as no background has been previously obtained, and it is not advisable to address situations without all the facts. The board can really only speak when they vote. If a board member responds, it is only that board member's opinion, not the board as a whole. Audience comments may be relative to any agenda item, whether or not it has been placed on the agenda, or it may be on any topic of their choice. This is not a time to discuss specific personnel or student matters. Audience comments are limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. Also, if a delegation of persons comes to discuss a single issue, every attempt should be made to avoid redundancy and have each person state only new facts or new perceptions during their allotted audience time. With that, it's pretty much all we ask is that when you come forward, if you can please say your name for the record so that we can record that, and then you'll have your 5 minutes. At the end of your 5 minutes, what we try to do is have Megan kind of raise her hand so that you know you have about 30 seconds left, as sort of a way for hospitality, and so that we're all following the same rules for one another and to listen to one another. So if anyone would like to make public comment at this time, we would invite you to come forward.
Hi, Marie Taylor. Okay, so my comment is really more about the prevention measures for or COVID prevention measures for what we're here to vote on today, I guess. So you can't hear. Okay, I'll talk about, is my mic on here on? Okay. All right, so in the documentation that we're here to discuss, rather for the board to vote on, which was combed through ad nauseum, but at length, for needed reasons. Last week, I see red changes, and I thought that was the change that the board had made, but I think there either was something was overlooked or additional changes had been made. Obviously, you guys haven't had a chance to comment on that, so this might be a moot point. But I did notice on page 5, I believe, one thing that the board had agreed on, seemed unanimously, was to not distinguish between vaccinated and unvaccinated. And on page 5, I did notice that we're still talking about unvaccinated, unvaccinated, unvaccinated. So again, maybe that's overlooked, or maybe that has changed, but as a comment that I had. And then I don't know if all board members will have a chance, because not all board members are here today. But on the front page, just talking about the levels in which we will be back under a mask mandate. So I guess I just have like public comment and concern about that. And maybe you guys can discuss where that came from and not glance over that. I think that's really important. That matters a lot to parents who are going to be starting or thinking about enrolling their children or not here in a few weeks. So that's my public comment on that. It's just a lot of changes that happened on here. Shame on me for not printing this out a little bit earlier, but when I glanced at it, I thought all of the red was what had been discussed on stage, and it doesn't appear to be the case. Either that or I am mistaken. So my request is just to talk about that, not glance over this and say, oh, yep, it's all the same, because it doesn't appear to be the same. I hope I am mistaken and these have been overlooked, but that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next?
Hello, my name's Daniel Martin. Are we voting on something tonight? Was that on the agenda? I didn't see that. I was curious. Was this about the protocols? I know you can't answer, but I'm curious about that. If there is going to be a vote tonight, I would imagine there shouldn't be. Here we are at the last minute, a week before opening. We started this a long time ago, and we still have really no clear resolution. I read through these protocols, and basically many of them contradict what we've already voted on. So that's interesting. I thought we were here about the ionizers, and all I have to say about the ionizers is, you know, I know no one wants to admit to making a mistake to anything. I don't understand that. It's like a sign of the times or something. I don't know how we're supposed to learn about anything unless we say, you know, we made a mistake about that, we made a mistake about that, and we're not going to do that again. One thing about the ionizers, there's no doubt in my mind, is that you guys and Mr. Dorothy had nothing but their best intentions to protect these students and give them a level of public, you know, health, safety above and beyond all costs. You know, I mean, that is the motive. It's honorable. It couldn't be better. You know, I don't question that, and I think that's what's most important, because Will Down Engineering is kind of a conflict of interest. I mean, they're the people that came and said everything's good here, put it on. Now they're back saying everything's good. And let's face it, it's a class action lawsuit. There's millions of dollars of attorneys going through this. And there has been considerable testing by companies as big as Boeing, and their findings contradict the findings of Will Down. It doesn't really matter. We join the suit, we don't join the suit. I think the idea is that we need transparency. When you send things out to parents, like the report from the school, which was not good news, you need to send the whole thing. It's a PDF. Send it so all parents have the same information. They go, well, it wasn't that bad. No, it was horrible. Half of these students are not up to where they should be. Almost 40% of them are deeply depressed because of last year. So, you know, if you're talking to a parent, they go, well, I didn't know that. Well, I don't know that. You got to inform them, Mr. Dorothy. You just got to inform them. I know our intentions are good. We need transparency. I honestly hope, I don't understand if we're voting tonight. If there is going to be a vote tonight, I would be surprised and rather taken aback. I suggest if you call for a vote, you should probably call the police too, because you'll be completely out of order, you know? An aptitude for that, Mr. Dorothy. So be like old times, right? If you call the police, if you call for a vote, because this is just outrageous. We voted on this.
Mr. Martin, I'm going to say a point of order. I want you to continue. Let's pause time because I don't want to take away from your time.
Oh, that's good. I'm done. Thanks.
Okay. We don't want to do anything that encourages and elevates the point of anger. There's no need for police to be called because I believe that we can be civil to one another and listen. I believe that. Who would like to speak next? That's the tone we're going to set for our students. Thank you. I'm not. I just want to make clear that we want to be an example that is worthy of our children in the way that we speak, and we don't need to, we won't need the police to come because we're going to do the right thing. So are you.
Can you
The
guys
next
hear me?
person has the floor.
Can you guys hear me from here?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, Ms. Kelly, Mr. Dorothy, and other members of the school board. I am Camden Cox, and I spoke 3 weeks ago to you on your original night of deciding whether we are going to mask or not for the upcoming school year. And I tried to provide some talking points that evening, and I would like to do that again tonight. 3 weeks ago, you decided that it would be up to parents and students if they wanted to mask themselves or not in the schools. And I still believe that that is how it should be. And I know from talking to families and other students over the summer that that's what they want as well. I would also like to remind you that Baldwin is a separate community from Gardner, Olathe, and Lawrence, and that we do not need to make the same decisions as those districts are making. Over the summer, between activities going on within the schools, whether that be sports or weights or extended school year, we had, as far as I know, only one positive case all summer long in the schools. And that's pretty good numbers. And I don't see those numbers spiking again. I agree that if they do spike, we should probably be back in mask again. But until that time, I don't believe that that's what we should be doing. I thank you for your time this evening, and I hope you can come to a conclusion that suits everybody.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Can anyone not hear? I think part of the issue was adjusting it here so that it would go better at Zoom at home. Okay, let's see if that works better. Who would like to speak next? Okay. Oh, we have, yes, ma'am.
This will probably work better since I'm short, but I did notice you lowered it for me this time. Hi, I'm Jessica McQuarrie. I have 2 elementary aged girls in the district. I'm here today because a lot has changed with the virus in the past couple of weeks. And I'm here to ask you again to consider the evolving situation, specifically with the Delta variant, and how it should really influence the mitigation strategies that we apply in our schools. I'm deeply concerned that we're removing too many layers of protection all at once. And I truly appreciate everyone's desire to return to normal. I want it too. But with bringing everyone back in person, we're already limiting our ability to distance to 3 feet, let alone the recommended 6 feet if we eliminate masks. We're also increasing potential transmission points by removing the A/B schedules from high school and the elementary classroom cohorts. Lastly, by eliminating the universal masking, we eliminate that final layer of protection that becomes so crucial when the other protections aren't in place. I know masks aren't a perfect solution, they have their issues, but they do reduce transmission by 1/3 to 1/2. That's something. Last year, we saw virtually no flu cases, and we have masks to thank for that. Area hospitals, including in Kansas City and Lawrence, are already at their tipping point. Recent reports on KC area hospitals show that they're running about a 90 to 95% staff to bed ratio right now, meaning that they're basically at capacity right now. Many of them are juggling patients just to handle incoming cases of COVID or other medical emergencies, and LMH had to reopen their COVID unit. This is all happening before we've even started school or entered the cold and flu season. Our hospitals also reported that the number of cases have tripled in the past 2 weeks' time. The American Academy of Pediatrics just released data today for the week of July 29th through August 5th and reported that there were 94,000 child cases in the last week. That accounts for 15% of all new cases across the country. Children's Mercy isn't turning people away just yet, but they're close. Last week, they saw 269 COVID cases and 259 cases of RSV. I think that we've learned a lot in the past 2 weeks about the Delta variant. We know that it's more transmissible than Ebola or smallpox. So there's this thing called R0, and it's an epidemiological figure to represent the rate of transmission of a virus. And the original COVID was about 1.5 to 2.5 for that rating, meaning that each case would infect 1.5 to 2.5 other people. Delta is estimated to have an R0 between 5 and 8, meaning each case would infect 5 to 8 people. And it's sickening children at higher rates than the original. Many of our surrounding communities have chosen to protect the vulnerable. Baker here in town has announced masks are required. KU, Lawrence School District, Topeka, Olathe, Johnson County, and many more. I ask that you look at what's happening around us, listen to the county health department, and apply their recommendations. Do not make Baldwin a case study in what not to do. If we don't attend first to our children's physical safety, we cannot address their emotional well-being. Do the right thing, please. Reinstate layered protections as recommended by the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics for the coming school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Would someone like to speak next? Addie, if you'll just state your full name, because I don't think you were here when I read the rules, but all you have to do is say your name so that everybody can hear it, and then you can go ahead and start, okay? Okay.
Hello, my name is Addie Allen. I'm a current student here at Baldwin Junior High. This is going to be my 8th grade year. I'm here to talk about masks and what they've done to my generation. Many boys and girls my age have developed depression, and I have personally gotten anxiety and developed depression that I've never had before. Personally, this year my grades were not the best. I have ADD and many of my friends have ADHD. Masks have made it extremely hard to pay attention masks have made it extremely hard to pay attention to what my teachers are teaching, and it's so hard to understand them through their masks. I'm just so excited to see all my friends and all my teachers. I've always loved going to school, but last year had made me dread going to school. I don't want to get out of bed, and when I got home from school, I was so grumpy I didn't even want to talk to anybody. My mother would try to cheer me up, and it would never work. I didn't care what I looked like, and this really was not my normal self at all. One thing I missed was getting to sit in the bleachers and talk to my friends after school. Last year, we were not able to do that due to social distancing and masks. We all hang out with our friends outside of school, and I feel like the school does not really understand that. We are always with our friends, and with usually no masks. I have had a lot of social events over the summer, indoors and outdoors. My friends have never worn masks, and we've never got sick. I personally never had COVID this year. The mask has lowered my self-esteem. I've developed bad acne last year and tried to cover it with more makeup, which also lowers a person's self-esteem. It was a down spiral of my self-esteem, and I was depressed and unhappy last year. I hate not being able to see my friends smile in the halls and all the facial expressions from teens that should be able to be expressed. Masks are mentally and physically unhealthy. My entire family is distant, and even distant family, I have noticed I'm not my healthy self. I am often very quiet and I put a fake smile on so they won't worry. Masks have affected my life in a negative way, not a positive. In closing, I want to beg you to please let us return to school like a normal way to make our own choices. No social distancing, no mask unless it is an individual's choice to do so. I'd like my parents and I to have a choice whether I need to wear a mask or not. I don't think it's fair that you're making all the decisions about my body and my health. No offense or anything. I feel like my choice of freedom and my freedom of choice is being taken away from me. And I think that's what America is supposed to be about. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Addie. Anybody else?
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Youngmeyer. What's that?
The microphone.
Okay. Better? My name is Erin Youngmeyer. I am the parent of a incoming first grader and fourth grader. And first of all, I just wanted to say, where did she go, Addie? That was very brave. It's very hard to get up and speak publicly, especially when you're young. So I applaud you for being able to do that in front of all these folks. So I came here tonight to speak again. You guys probably remember me from a few weeks ago and from emails I've sent. I won't belabor data I've sent to you before. And some of the data I was going to share was already spoken to, so I won't go over it. I did bring you, this is a whole stack of headlines just from today of, 94,000 pediatric cases, children mercy at the highest peak, kids getting sicker. And while I certainly empathize with how hard it's been on children, I have too. It has been hard. They have done everything right. They have barely seen any friends in over a year and a half in an effort to do the right thing and stop the spread. And I want nothing more than for them to be in their seats in a classroom. And all the experts say that's what is most important, is getting those kids back in their seats. And I want that more than anything, but it can't happen if we don't keep them safe. And I understand for the kids that are 12 and up and who have been vaccinated or have the choice of being vaccinated, that their risk of serious illness or hospitalization or death is very low if they're vaccinated. And I understand that for those kids and the adults that are vaccinated, getting back to normal is so wonderful. Like, how great is that? But for those of us with kids who cannot be vaccinated yet, we don't have that luxury. And I'm very lucky. I have the choice and the ability to lean on grandma and put the kids in virtual school if you guys are not going to offer mitigations to keep the kids safe. And currently that is our plan. We have already enrolled the kids in Lawrence Virtual School, and their dollars won't come to the Baldwin district until they can come here safely. So I just wanted to come here tonight and let you know from my perspective that failing to offer mitigations to keep the kids safe, particularly those under 12, it not only puts the kids at risk, but it also hurts the district and it hurts the community. If we care about getting the kids in school and helping them recover from this whole past couple of years, we have to keep them safe through this Delta outbreak. And it sucks. We all know it sucks, but we can't change the science. It is what it is. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay. Oh, one more. Okay.
Pick this thing up. I am kind of loud, but is it working? Aha. Troy Yardley, I've spoken a few times to you guys. I just wanted to come up and say, since this is what we're voting on tonight, the prevention measures for the 21-22 school year, I just, again, wanted to say, like I've said all along, I would like to keep our kids' education at the forefront of all of this. I was a little surprised, I will admit, to see that there is verbiage as far as vaccinated and unvaccinated in this document. I thought in the last meeting that it was excluded from all the paragraphs all throughout this. So that is concerning, along with several other things. But again, I will say it and I will say it again, parents' choice. As far as PCR tests, since that's what we're gonna hold this to. So I appreciate that, but also can we please keep our kids' education at the forefront here? I can't say it enough, and I will keep saying it until that's what we move to, is Can we please get past the current topics and move on? We voted on it. We beat that dead horse. Our kids' educations are suffering. My kids are 8 and 9. I'm worried about having to hold them back. I'm worried about if they're going to be able to, move on in their academic milestones the way they're supposed to, because it seems like that's not even important here. From what I'm hearing is, we've got health crisis. This isn't a health board, no offense. This is a board of education. Can we please keep it that and do what we have to do to get our children what they need academically to be contributing members of society? I don't think this thing is working. Is it working? Okay. What? Okay, sorry. That's all. I had something else, but I don't remember. I didn't write it down, but that's, again, for the 10,000th time, education. That's why we're here. That's why we're all here, is for our kids' education. I would like to assume. So if we can just keep it that, I'm much obliged. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, I'm Virginia Merritt. I was here the last meeting as well. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to all the teachers and staff who are watching tonight, who will be implementing the protocols that you guys have set out and who have over the last 18 months. Thanks for going above and beyond for our children in this community in less than ideal circumstances for all. I also want to thank the board and express that I understand this is a difficult position, and I appreciate all the time and dedication that several of you put into this. I've also seen the board repeatedly threatened with lawsuits and disenrollment from what may seem to be the loud majority of voices here in the last several meetings. I am not interested in making those threats, but with a very uneasy heart. I did enroll my 3 kids in the district this last week. The decision did not come easy, and I still waver almost daily. I have twins who both have IEPs and a very social 9-year-old who desperately misses his friends and wants to play ball. I want that for him too. I want that for all of our children in a safe environment where I know he won't be singled out and where he won't be the only one, or where he won't have only one small layer of protection between the kids, my kids and this virus. I'm uneasy about the possibility of ending the needing to scramble through making difficult decisions throughout the remainder of the school year if we start out with some of the protocols that are set in place currently. I don't think anyone will disagree tonight that this last year has shown us that kids need to be in school. I keep hearing that from parents, teachers, as well as doctors. Just today, for example, I listened to last week's meeting in the Greater Kansas City of Chief Medical Officers. I believe this video was passed along to the board members as well. Chiefs from several local hospitals explaining the current situation of area hospitals, COVID rates tripling over the last 2 weeks, hospitals nearing capacity, a max 19 children with COVID at Children's Mercy and 7 patients with COVID in the ICU. All other area hospitals seeing an increase in hospitalization COVID rates individually in the 20 to 50 age ranges. That's the same age ranges of Baker students, our districts, and staff and teachers and parents and grandparents. All of these school-age children are making decisions for tonight. Of those of you sitting on the board as well, and several people in this audience, this information is coming out of the highest doctors and staff in the area. The places any of us go when we have medical emergencies: KU Med, Children's Mercy, Advent Health, LMH, Olathe, even representatives from Miami County. The overwhelming response was to need indoor masking to lower the spike. Reviewing COVID protocols, I imagine there will be a lot to discuss tonight. I would like clarification as to how the board came to conclusions that they did surrounding the masks and not masks, considering we do not have the following guidance from the CDC, AAP, state or local health departments, or even numerous local doctors. Although there is a clause in the protocols that you laid out that says the board has the right to change masking per advice of local doctors. So I'm asking if this list of chief medical advisors I previously discussed are local enough to make that change. Considering we have many families in our community who work, shop, seek medical care, and participate in activities within these communities. Kids need to be in school and they need to be kept safe. And I fear this approach and confusion of these protocols is leading our kids and staff down a road that will make this year a more difficult one. Local data is showing with Delta having COVID before doesn't necessarily protect you. And this variant and local hospitals are seeing second infections, which means our herd immunity rates are lower than maybe estimated. According to KUMed, the prediction for our vaccination rates needs to be at 80 to 85% to control this Delta variant and reach a more normal state of normalcy. And we are not there yet. School is important for kids. Top priority is for them to be in school for so many reasons. In order to do that, mitigation strategies have been in place. Case rates and vaccination coverage. Several school districts locally have made the decision for universal masking at the start of school year with reevaluation along the way. Blue Valley originally made the decision not to mask based on summer rates, and with a combination of increased cases and learning more about Delta, as well as several local pediatricians and a list of 200 other physicians in the area expressing their concerns, quickly changed their policy for universal masking in their schools. I hope you all decide to follow suit, and the very large majority of other school districts who have done the same thing over the last couple of weeks. Cases and severity of cases is on the rise in children. Now is not the time to back down on these protocols and listening to the experts in our community. I've heard often that
Time has expired. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak before we continue with our discussion? All right. Thank you very much for coming. Again, it's not easy for young people. It's not easy for people of any age to get up and speak. It's nerve-wracking. It's hard. And again, we're all here for the same reason. It's what people feel is best for their kids and their families. And so I appreciate that. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to old business and begin with the 21-22 COVID protocol document.
Okay, the document that you received that was put out to the public about COVID protocols for this year. At the beginning of the board went through the list, went line by line, and we looked at when we made those changes. The board also, Dr. Harvey very specifically said, I need to see what Lisa thinks about all of this, along with any of the details that might be there. So please bring this back. So that's what we've done tonight, and the things that we read are some of the things that are suggested. Most certainly the board can accept those or not accept those. That's up to you. But I do think that Lisa is here this evening. Lisa would probably want to comment about some of those things or answer the questions about some of the working on the quarantine. And a few of those things that were added into the different from what the board said the first time. That does not mean that has to change, but that's the recommendation from the district on that. So where would we like to start?
Can you explain that Lisa's the nurse?
Yeah, Lisa Packard was the school district's nurse.
Just to clarify.
Sure.
Also, while we're settling in, one of the questions that was asked was the distinction between the black and the red. So I think this would be a good time to talk about that. The stuff that was in the black is the stuff that we went through and, did this on. We then said, okay, we need to make sure that that's going to work and give other staff an opportunity to look at that. Is this actually going to be feasible? And then despite the vote that we already had about masks, the other mitigation strategies in the document include the the benchmarks, the metrics for making a change. We wanted people to have time to take a look at that and see if that was going to work. So then, once that process went back to, I believe, A-Team and others and district nurse and staffing, then the document that we saw was here's what we can actually do with what you gave us. And those are the things that are in red that we are then asked to look at tonight. So that's the distinction between those things. And then what we are going to be asked to do is, are we okay with that? And also to answer that question, I believe that is why the vaccinated versus unvaccinated terminology sort of came back into play, because there's only so much of that worked with how quarantining worked, even if that's not a district policy. I want to make that clear. But what I also want to make clear is Nurse Lisa Patrick is a rock star and got us through last year. Not to put anything on you and your team, but I personally am not in a position where I'm going to doubt Nurse Lisa, and I'm happy to have a conversation about that with the board. But I just want to say that now, she and others have done a really great job and kept our numbers low. So there's an element, I will say, just to be transparent about, if it ain't broke, don't fix it from that standpoint. But the stuff in red is the stuff that we all need to talk about. So setting the table for that conversation, and let's go from there.
I have no desire to contradict Lisa's advice. I had a question or two. The cohort part was stripped out of primary buildings. Was that a physical space issue or what's going on?
Partially. I think it would be better if I allow Mr. Halston that reading when to address the cohort issue. If you guys can come up with the microphone.
We looked at that last year and knew that the reason that cohorting worked was a layer of masking that also went with it. We had a class size limitation as well. And so if we're going to put the kids in the classroom, we're looking at numbers up in the 24, 25 range, unmasked in the same classroom. We don't have the masking before school in the bus, the transportation that we did have last year. Well, I think that may have changed. So we were thinking of the need to cohort versus the effect that cohorting would have on mitigation. So that was one of the main reasons. That the other measures aren't there. How effective is the cohorting for what it does for the interactions between kids? That was my take on it.
I would say exactly the same thing. That if masks are optional, then the kids will be together in a variety of places other than the classroom. And so cohorting just doesn't seem to make sense if masks are optional.
Got something like you're making a move.
I'm nervous about the mic though.
We can hand you this
That
one.
one works now.
All right, does it work this time? No, it is
Yeah.
working? Okay, for once it actually works. Okay. I was wondering if we can kind of walk through the quarantine procedures that are listed out here. I don't have any personal disagreement with the way it's laid out here. I just want to make sure that we're talking through, because there are some systemic changes that are occurring here. I want to make sure that we have a discussion about how it's going to end up looking in practicality.
I might let Lisa
Yes, yeah.
do that and walk through it because she put it together. I will say this. From what the board originally did with the quarantine, the first what we had talked about there, I believe what she put in there allows more of an opportunity for kids to say in school and say having to go home. So That's why I changed that, that's why I recently became concerned, because as it was, anytime you had that, everybody was going home. And I believe what we put in now, at least it's done, actually allows for a lot of schools, kids to be able to split in staff and stay.
We were trying quicker. Yeah.
That's not anything certain right here.
Okay, and so, am I on? Doesn't feel like it. No, it's not on.
Try the other one.
Just take mine. I want you guys. Okay. They can hear at home. Okay. So that's what's going on tonight. When it works in here, the Zoom feedback, people can't hear when they're watching on Zoom. That's the issue. Sorry. Thank you. We'll project. All right.
So of course, our positive case would do the normal 10-day quarantine at home. Any close contacts that we determine will have the option of staying in school as long as we test every morning for 10 days. We've received a grant, or actually the KDHE and the health department have received a grant for all of that testing. And so, you know, we would have staff available. They would also provide an extra staff to be able to do testing each morning. That would also apply for extracurricular activities, sports, band, choir. We'd have the ability to test, and as long as they tested negative each morning, they could return to class. We haven't quite got all the logistics figured out as to, you know, what time of day, where we would have those students come together, you know, where we could kind of keep everybody distanced. That's kind of still in the works. But I just think it would allow everyone to, you know, all the students to be able to stay in as much as possible. That's where the vaccination part comes in. And because these are recommendations from KDHE, that if someone is fully vaccinated, and those are spelled out in here as well, that they would not have to do the quarantine measures, the testing, and would not have to, you know, quarantine otherwise. Vaccination is one of the #1 mitigation strategies, and that's kind of been our goal all along, is to get as many people vaccinated as possible. And I just feel like, you know, goes hand in hand. If they're vaccinated, the quarantine wouldn't be necessary.
Just as a clarifying question though, we would still require, if there is a contact situation though, even if you're vaccinated, you still need to show that negative test, correct?
Right, correct.
Okay. So there's no distinction between, because there seems to be that, okay, got it. So there's no distinction between vaccinated and unvaccinated as far as needing to show that negative test if you've been in a situation, right?
Okay, say that again, Kelly.
So let's say someone is vaccinated but they've been in a close contact.
Right.
Even though they've been vaccinated, we would still ask them to go ahead and test and show a negative test. Is that right?
Not according to their recommendations.
Okay.
They would basically monitor for symptoms.
I have to say, I know this is more than what they're asking, but if it is true, and again, for the 8th millionth and one time, I'm not a doctor, but if you are vaccinated and you can still spread it asymptomatically, it seems reasonable. And yet, and another way to remove distinctions, at least among kids, vaccinated, unvaccinated, to go ahead and make that vaccinated person show a negative test. I mean, because they could test positive if they are, I don't know, that's why I'm asking. That's kind of what we talked about last time, and that is something that's different now. It is actually more strict really than what KDHE is even asking for in that sense, by taking that distinction away. So that part was a little bit confusing to me, so I just wanted to ask about that. Does that make more sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
and my understanding is, you know, with the vaccination, you're much, much less likely to be able to contract COVID, and you're much, much less likely to be able to spread.
Mm-hmm.
So. But yeah, there still is that chance.
And then I had a question that I might have missed it because it's always hard for me to follow. But I know that in some quarantine situations, or rules, they always give like the 90-day window. Like if you've had COVID and then you test positive within a 90-day window, and I'm not sure if it's 90 days, I think it is.
6 months.
Okay.
6 months now.
So I was wrong. Will we do that, or is that in here? Will we
Yes,
do-
that is in here as well.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
That was one question, and then I'm not sure if it said somewhere, but I'm not sure if it was one of the crossed out parts. Oh yeah, I think it's crossed out fever-free for 72 hours or the 10 days. Like you have to stay home for that long.
Which page are you on?
What's that?
Which page are you?
I don't know, because mine aren't
Oh, yeah,
numbered.
neither am I.
It's right above the defining close contact. It's that page at the top. And maybe it says it somewhere else. But I've read this a few times, so I might be wrong. But are we going to do the 72-hour fever free, or?
I'm not real sure what you're referring to.
It's page 7.
Page 7.
I should have numbered them. Do you see it not crossed out or crossed out?
72 hours after fever is gone without the use of fever reducing medication. And there's been significant improvement in symptoms.
Do you see it not crossed out or the
It's
crossed
not
out part?
crossed out on mine.
It's in red.
Oh, okay. All right. So I just do the crossed out one. Okay. Oh, is my mic on? Oh. Okay. And I just asked because I just know someone who had that situation where they had a fever way on, so it stuck out at me. So that's all.
Okay.
Another thing we will need to talk about is the mask on the bus issue, because that's a separate thing than the protocol document as we have discussed it the last time. That's now been federally mandated. So how that all fits in with all of that too is something we'll need to take on as well as part of this discussion. Not so much as approving or not approving the protocols as they read, but it's related. So we need not run away from that part of the discussion as families are making decisions about what the school year is going to look like and why, and then do with that what they will. What else, guys?
I'll open this big can of worms, Paul. First, about masks. It's still, Lisa, and your recommendation to go optional.
For years, as long as we're meeting those metrics, and as of today's numbers, we're still meeting those metrics.
And the other schools in our league, the other districts in our league?
Looks like about a year in our league is going to mask optional. At this time, most of the schools in our area are still mask optional. Some of them are meeting tonight having the same conversation. So, with that, we can Santa Fe Trail, West Franklin, Iowa, Wellsville. Governor had, but I know they've got a lot of orders, so I'm not sure if further might make a change to that. And then New York is mask optional. Most certainly North is all masks. They made that change a couple weeks ago.
Thank you. A lot of data has hit us in the last 3 weeks, and none of it that I've seen is any good. So I have been leaning more and more towards requiring masks in our PC and IC. I don't think it's appropriate to vote on that tonight when it's not on the agenda and we're down a school board member, but we start school soon. And so I'm kind of torn on this document. I don't want to tie our hands in any way. I appreciate the wording. It says we can act whenever we deem necessary, but I worry about the wording in general and just tying everything to a metric. When there are cases out there that we may not, circumstances that we may not be aware of, or able to predict at this point. So for what it's worth, that's where I stand.
I'm going to just piggyback on that for just a minute because when we came to our last meeting, it was on the agenda as a discussion item and we all agreed to go ahead and vote because parents wanted to know. And I agreed as well. I've lost a little sleep since then. I feel like I voted without all of being, I was in the mountains in a cabin for 2 weeks before that. And I came home and I had not been in the thick of the research with it. And so I want to be able to sleep again. And I feel like I just need to state my piece with this. I think that there's 3 main compelling arguments with this. One is the research around masking, using layers of protection and not masking and COVID in general. From what I look into, and I've looked into both sides of it, I think that the evidence is much more compelling from the scientists that masking and layers of support protect kids, protect their safety, physical and mental, which brings me to my second point about mental health. I listened to the argument about masking causing anxiety and depression. But regarding that, I have yet to see one causation study that masking causes depression. Masking is a symptom of the pandemic, which may be contributing to anxiety and depression. There is a correlation maybe with masking and depression, but there is not, a correlation is not a causation. So I just want to say that. And then also weighing the mental health impact of asking everyone to wear a mask versus the mental health impact of students who have to be at home as middle school, high schoolers who can be home alone but need parent support at home, or as elementary students whose parents will have to take off work and stay home with them. The impact of that to me is greater than asking people to wear a mask. And I think that rounds out my points. I'm not asking for a vote either because I know that we did do that already. I want to be able to sleep better this week.
As far as not asking for a vote, when we did have the regular meeting and we voted, I was surprised that we were voting that night. And when I asked, we're not voting on this, are we? It was commented that it was just up for discussion, and yet, like you said, we went ahead and voted because parents wanted to know. And so much really has changed. I know 5 people who have died of COVID since that night that we voted. And, you know, we've heard the statistics and everything. We've heard statistics both ways. I've never been one to really put a lot into statistics, but we have heard statistics. And I lean greatly toward, well, I would like to revote, whether it be tonight or sometime before school starts. I mean, it might be good to wait till we have a full board here. I don't know, but I would definitely like to have another vote before school starts.
Chris, Tony, you have anything?
Well, I think I've stated my opinion. It hasn't really changed. So I got barked at that night for expressing the minority opinion, but I'm sticking to my guns. I want to stick with recommendations of health professionals that do this for a living, and that's what I'm seeing in the news as well. Is that masking and distancing to the extent that we can is a way to protect our kids.
If I can add one more thing, another comment is with voluntary masking. A comment that we've seen by a lot of parents in letters that we've had and public comment is that even though we're adding a clause in here about bullying, for one thing, I don't know if all comments by kids to those who choose to wear a mask would come under the bullying policy, because it has to be bullying has to be a heightened level. But we see how adults treat other adults, such as what Tony is talking about, how he was treated. So if you can imagine how a kid is going to treat another kid, a six-year-old is going to treat another 6-year-old, there's going to be a lot of tension and turmoil, and kids are not going to feel comfortable in their learning environment if they choose to wear a mask, because we see it in our own adult world.
Well, I want to give everybody a chance to talk before I summarize where we're at and what I'm hearing, so that we can figure out what we want to do next, but I don't want to do that in this role prematurely until everybody's had a chance to speak if they want to. I think we've almost made the rounds. I know you spoke earlier, Chris, about qualifying questions, but.
Okay, yeah, is that on again? Golly, man.
Got mine?
No.
I don't know if mine works though.
What about now? Jeez, I'm terrible at this. I'm grabbing that mic. What about this one?
Hey,
Am I on now? Okay, all right. Need multiple mics, apparently. Yeah, so in a lot of ways, I feel like this year, or this school year is a harder, more complicated decision than last year. I think we've been through a year of following the recommendations from health officials. We're obviously dealing with a lot of repercussions of not just masking, but the general environment we've created over the last year for our kids. I'm still of the mind that we made the right decision last week, or last time we were together, about having a mask optional policy. But as was mentioned earlier, things are changing rapidly. In the 3-week time frame we're talking about here, we suddenly have all our area hospitals full, including with kids. So while I still am on that fence about and leaning towards we made the right decision last time about mask optional, next week may be a different matter in terms of how many more kids we have in the hospitals and how many more or where we have to send ourselves sometimes to out of regional hospitals for treatment here. So all in all, so if I had to vote today, I'll put it this way, I'm contented with the remediation procedures we're looking at right now. I'm contented with the mask optional policy we currently have in place. And like to Susan's point, I don't think I'm going to sleep any better at any point in the next 6 or 8 months or so here. So that regardless of what we end up deciding on this issue here. So anyway, those are my thoughts, but I do agree that having a full board for this discussion would be helpful, and that next week will be a whole different story probably, in all honesty. So.
Okay, so just to summarize where we're at. I personally, procedurally, I want to make sure everybody understands what you can do. Procedurally, you can do whatever you want. I think out of respect, if there's a desire to change a position that was formally voted on, any board member can make a motion and we vote on that. We also recognize that we don't have a full board here tonight on this decision, and that's important. If I were voting tonight, I have to say I would still go with the optional. Not because, clearly I'm opting to wear a mask. I'm fully vaccinated. I believe the science. I want people to be safe. I do. I don't want one single kid to suffer because they get sick. I don't want one single kid to fall behind because they can't concentrate in the mask. I don't want any of it. As a Board of Education member, where I've come to some peace, and it doesn't mean I'm right, I'm just saying this is where I'm at. I think it's important for families to make the decision of how their kid is going to get their education. Having said that, if my kids were under 12 and not vaccinated, they would be masked at school, because I believe that is another layer of protection. I want to be honest about that. If they were not experiencing other difficulties developmentally, and it is different for an adult with a fully formed brain, you can still hear me, you can still see if I'm ticked off through this mask, you can still see it all, but it is different for children. academically. And I do think that we have some data that shows that makes me feel like with these other mitigation strategies that have been suggested by people who did a great job last year, I think it's worth trying. That's where I'm at. And with full disclosure that everyone may come back next week and say, dead wrong, I'm calling for a vote, and you can do that tonight. So even though it's my job to summarize and get us to make some sort of decision one way or the other, as an individual board member, I just want to say that's where I'm at tonight. I'm of the mind to make a motion to approve the protocols as suggested, because our people know our kids and they've been there for them. That's me. But if someone else has a different, I respect the fact that everybody's been willing to speak on where you are currently too. And I know it's hard when we don't have a full board here. So with that, I want to let everyone kind of ruminate. Mr. Dorothy, if you have anything you'd like to add about the recommendation as it is, I certainly don't want to rush anything, but just trying to kind of summarize our thoughts and where we're at, because I can see that there is discomfort and I completely understand the reason why. It's serious and we don't want kids getting sick.
Well, what I'll say is, it's important that the protocols, whatever you want to approve, if it needs to get done, if you wait until next Monday, and I'm not saying it's up to the board, but it's your choice, but next Monday is the night before the first day of school. Staff, parents, everybody needs to know what this is so that they can make decisions on what they're going to do. So I think that's important to do. Whether, well, but I think all that's in there. The only thing I'll say about the optional mask, and I know other persons to this, I guess if you want this optional mask allows choice, is most certainly may not feel mistaken. That's part of the mitigation thing, is with 2 weeks in the school, and they have to make a change because the metrics are not there. The metrics are not there yet, but probably one previous metrics, which you can see there has to do with the teams. And we don't have that yet because we're not school. So we don't know which direction that goes, how many kids we'll have. And I know things are changing across the country, and we can't ignore that. But I guess I'm still at least on saying I think we can try the option on masks and move forward from there. But I know some of you are very uncomfortable with that.
As I said, I'm skeptical about sending our vaccination ineligible population into the buildings without masks. I would not make a motion for that, to change that tonight. I don't think it's appropriate. I guess I would like to vote yes on this as presented and get these metrics on the books, along with the wording that says that we reserve the right to step in if we feel it's necessary. And then I think we just all have to be very aware as we move forward, and make sure we're keeping up with the data and doing what we can.
I think the protocol as it's presented and what we've discussed tonight, the points that have been brought up tonight, is a good protocol. And I think it is pretty comprehensive, and it gets us to being as safe as we can as long as masks are optional. And Kelly, I don't think any of us have the right answer. We're all just having this a discussion. So I'm with you. I'm just, I'll say what Tony said last week. I hope that that I'm wrong in my concern. And I hope that we are maintaining as we have without going up anymore in the county. And that is the best we can hope for. And again, to Paul's point, we can come back and discuss this as needed.
Mr. Dorothy, would you mind, can we go over the metrics? Because this is where we have to work together as a community to keep ourselves healthy.
Sure.
would you mind just giving some specific so that people?
And most certainly will make sure that the metrics that we're putting in there for ones that I went with, they might not have the exact number that you agree with. So most certainly, if you want to talk about those numbers, we can ask that. But the idea was that we wanted metrics that were more directly related to Baldwin in particular and kids in particular, in order to make decisions on it. So the first one is equal to or greater than 0.5%. And let me explain that number. On COVID absences of staff and students testing positive or suspected positive, that does not count quarantine, does not count quarantine, except for a kid that's actually positive. So that would be, and so 0.5% is not count. That sounds pretty small, but that would be 8. That's staff and students combined. That would be 8. Last year was one that grew. The highest we ever got in 1 week last year was 8. So to get to 8 would be surpassing what we had last year. And maybe it goes over the top of that very quickly. But it would be 8. So that one has the most weight to it, 7 points, because that's the most directly involved with us. Is if we have kids, the students that actually have it within the district. The second criteria is the number of USD 248 staff and students that are hospitalized over 1. At the present time, as far as we just know, there are no hospitalizations of those people right now. We would know that better if we were in school. But right now, that could not be there. That one is for 3 points. The next one is the positive testing percentage for our zip code over 5%. That's 3 points. So that's directly related to here. And today, that was 2.2% today. Which is the jump from last week, it was 1.2, the week before that, it had gone down. So that's kind of normal, but that's our zip code specifically, not Lawrence. The last criteria is positive testing percentage for 0 to 17-year-olds in Douglas County, over 5% average. So the average today was 3.4% for 0 to 17. Unfortunately, they don't break down that percentage for Baldwin itself, but kids in general in the county, that was the next one. And so you've got 7 points, 3 points, 2 points, 3 points. If at any time it becomes 9 points or greater with those things added together, then the board should consider coming together and making a decision about not closing schools. That's not what we're talking about here, about whether we go to mass. Then again, it's how long will we go to mass? Was that a month or a couple of weeks? You know, how long are we going to mass? And I think that's still following your metric. And the other measure was using that. But if you read the wording above, in the paragraph there, the board will use the criteria outlined below as a general guideline in determining that a return to district-wide mask mandate is called for. But the board also reserves the right to react to other conditions in the district, as well as guidance from healthcare professionals in making such a decision. So at this time, all we have in Douglas County is a high recommendation for wearing masks indoors, which is important to pay attention to. But they have not gone to the step of making a mandate. I would always say that they're making a mandate for schools and we should follow, but they have not made that step. I think that's important to understand. They that's definitely a beginning. It's a high recommendation, and I believe that's what we have in the criteria, is we highly recommend everybody that if it's indoors, you should wear masks. It's choice.
Mr. Dorothy, on that, I'm not sure if I'm on it again, but on that first metric, the equal or greater than 0.5%, that's based on, or 0.5, excuse me, that's based on total student and staff population, not on positivity percentage for the test, right?
Total students and staff in the district, it's right around 1,500.
Okay.
With all that added together, and then a half of a percent of that.
Okay. Are we planning on maintaining that the website we had last year where we had posted the date and the student or staff and the building?
Yes, we have to do that.
You do have to do that. So in that light, I'm wondering if it would be easier for us to track that and communicate that information out by saying 8 or fewer, or excuse me, 8 or more staff or student cases equals that 7 points. Because otherwise, community members have to do that computation to figure out what 0.5% is, rather than just saying if we have 8 or more staff members or students out, we're now at that 7 point criteria.
You're just talking about listing what that number is next to the metric on the website.
Yeah, just say if we have more
We're
than
not
8,
changing what we want to maintain it as a fluid number here. Got it.
yeah, just saying if we have more than 8 students or staff out, we're at that somewhat heightened level.
As enrollment stands
right
now,
yes,
whatever, yeah.
But thoughts on changing that, or if the board's fine with that metric being demonstrated that way, that's fine by me too. But it seems like that's easier computation for me to figure out. I can go to that website and see that we have 7 right now. We're getting close to that level, you know.
So you would just put a number there.
I would, kind of like we do with the staff, staff and student hospitalizations at 1 or over, just saying 8 or more type of thing. It is exactly the same difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we could have just put a number there, which the number we were looking at, probably number was 8.
Okay. Well, and if there's other rationale for keeping it as a percentage, that's fine by me. I just wanted to, just from my simple brain, thinking it'd be easier to have as a number.
I don't know if our enrollment numbers will change second semester or whatever. Was it your intention to maintain that 8 and not reevaluate the enrollment numbers throughout the year?
Well, that's up to the board to keep it on.
It's my only concern. I'm pretty sure we're not going to lose 100 kids, but I would hate to have a number in there that's meaningless. I guess we could revisit it.
Yeah, I want to back up what Andy just said, because when I read this in preparation for the meeting, I interpreted it as being based on a moving target of enrollment and staff. And if that's going to be changing, then I like the calculation of 0.5%, because it could go higher than 8, it could go lower than 8, right? I get it that people are going to have to do a little bit of math to figure out what that number is, but that might be a good opportunity for a good educational opportunity, right? To work on our computation skills.
I would prefer leaving this wording and on the website saying, as currently stands, that number is 7, or that number is 8, or whatever.
That's fine.
Remember, that's not quarantine.
Right.
This is actual
COVID positive cases.
Yes.
And then how are the metrics found? How are they created?
Well, Chris and I, looking at some of the data from some of the previously, I think we looked at the surveys, we looked at the counties here, and we tried to figure out metrics that I think a lot of people's concerns were, should we be looking at one stuff, shouldn't we be looking? So we try to sit with stuff that is directly, as close as we can to directly affect our community as much as possible with metrics for masks. So that's kind of where it came from, is I think we looked at the photos and that was the criteria that they had in there, and we picked out the ones that we felt best matched.
And Lisa, I want to put you on the spot again. I apologize, but you looked at these criteria and you're comfortable with the metrics? Okay, that's what I assumed. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Other questions about the protocols? Or points of clarification?
We ready to vote? I would make a motion that we accept the 2021-2022 COVID-19 protocols as presented to us.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jonah? Sorry, is Chris seconded? All right. Tony has moved and Chris is seconded. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your right hand. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries 6-0. All right. All right, we are going to do the Ionizer update.
Okay, as we saw, we got a report back from Baldwin, and we had purchased testing equipment, and then the testing within our district and craft schools to test for one ozone and then some of the VOCs. And so they came through and presented a report. You guys got the report, sent out the summarized report to parents so they could see that. We then asked legal whether, because questions asked on, could that mean a decision on whether we should turn that on or not before waiting until court case settled. What we don't know is how long that would take. Some of those things take years. Our attorney said regarding the wording that's been put in there, he felt strongly that if the board felt confident with what's there, you would have the right to turn those back on and that they do what they're supposed to be doing. At least a discussion.
Did everyone have a chance to review all of that? Okay. So what we'll need to decide is, and we don't have to decide tonight, we have, I mean, even if we voted to turn them back on, it takes a while to take them back on. So, you know, our procedural options are, I'm satisfied with the report and we can turn it back on, in which case that would need to be a motion, or we're meeting again next Monday anyway. I would like some more time to think about this. At which point I think we could also, I think we could speak with Brad directly. I think that was planned last I heard, but maybe not. So there's a couple different ways. We don't have to take action on this tonight, but we did want to update the public about the, and you guys make sure that we had that they found no issues, but we turned it off out of an abundance of caution. But what we do next about that is up for board discussion.
I just want to state out loud and get validation from you, Paul, because I think I've asked you this before. The class action lawsuit was not about toxins being released to students. It was about the ionizers not working. Is that accurate?
Right, but I think there was a portion there, Susan, that did talk about that was saying that it made the area worse, which was possibly releasing some of those things. So, yeah, I think there's a piece in there. The main part of it was saying they did not believe ionizers were working as advertised. That's what the lawsuit was. But it's in the lawsuit talking about the VOCs and those and so on.
I'm trying to talk. It's my thought right now, because I've read it. It's my thought right now, if there's any question, we should just hold off until real experts that have cost a lot of money, not that ours haven't, but it's gone through litigation. Both sides have looked at it. I don't think there's any reason to do any risk. We bought them so that they would clear the air and circulate and everything, but and there's a benefit there, and we might be forsaking that. But I feel like just if there's any risk, we should wait until it's been fully vetted on both sides, where they've fought it back and forth. And so I would do it out of abundance of caution in that realm.
Paul, did we install UV stuff as well, or did we do this instead? I can't remember, frankly.
This was instead.
I found here. No? Yes? Okay. Now that we have this report that kind of verifies that the ionizers are working as intended, I keep going back to last fall and last winter when we did keep COVID numbers in our school buildings really, really low. We didn't have any real spread in our school buildings, and that may have been in part or in whole due to the ionizers effects there. And so I really hate having this tool that we're not using and not knowing whether we don't have a control study here. We're taking care of the mask, or we're having masks be optional potentially going forward here, and also turning off the ionizers in next year just makes me even more concerned. I see this as a tool that we have. It's been verified to be effective as it was sold to us. So I'm inclined to think we ought to turn them back on. So I know I appreciate your legal advice here too, that
Well,
there is
this is just a lot, it's just me thinking.
yeah,
not
and not that I
legal.
want to step into a lawsuit by any means, but at the same time, I think it is an effective tool. That's why we purchased it. It's working as intended. I'm inclined to turn it back on and let them do their magic, however the heck it works. I don't quite understand it, but it sounds to be pretty impressive. Based on when the specialists came in and talked to us a bit about how they use those in those clean rooms and those types of things as well. But so those are my thoughts. Turn back on if at all possible, but yeah, I'll defer to the group as well.
For what it's worth, I voted already. Mine at home is turned back on.
I'd like to suggest that we table this until a week from tonight. Give a little more time to think about it. I mean, 1 week is not going to make, as I understand it, there is a process for getting them all. Even if it started now, it wouldn't be ready for, I think, the first day of school anyway. And it sounds like we have a diversity of thought, which is important, and it's good to have different perspectives. But I would like to suggest a week from tonight, we'll have all 7 of us. We'll have another week to have thought about this, and perhaps also speak with Brad as well, to see what are just some of our options there, but also that will give some time, because didn't we talk about some filtration? I know we have a new director of maintenance. Is he going to be able to join us next Monday night? So since he's going to be here next Monday night too, if you guys are okay with that, You'll be able to, that stuff is way above my pay grade, I can assure you. I would like to have people in their subject area here to talk more with us about it. Are you guys okay with that? Okay, so let's come back to that next Monday night. Thank you for the update, Mr. Dorothy. Handbooks. Under administrative reports, we have, there were 4 still that needed approval: transportation handbook, junior high student handbook, junior high staff handbook, and the high school staff handbook that are there and there for approval.
I'm not getting mine open right now, but did we get the transportation handbook to update to reflect that federal requirement for masks?
Will, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can't get it to open on my. It is on it. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Megan. Okay.
So when you're ready to do that, we would just need a motion. We could actually approve all 4 of them at once in that motion, and if the board is ready to do that.
I move that we accept the handbooks as presented.
Second.
Chris moved and Tony seconded to approve the transportation, junior high student, junior high staff, and high school staff book as presented. All those in favor, please say aye. Raise your right hand. Aye. No one's opposed. Motion carries 6-0. All right, at this time, I move we enter into executive session with Mr. Dorothy and Cindy Frick to discuss employment considerations pursuant to the exception for non-elected personnel under COMA, the Kansas Open Meeting Act, Meetings Act, plural, sorry. And the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 7:56 now. What time? 8:15? Is that long enough? Too long? 8:15? Okay. The open meeting will resume here at the PAC at 8:15. Is there a second?
Second.
Carrie has seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Raise your right hand.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Executive session until 8:15.
All right, we'll call this meeting back to order. At this time, we have a couple of closing items to vote on before we adjourn. Before we get to that, though, I do want to point out that our meeting next Monday night, our regular board meeting, will not be in here. I believe it is scheduled to be in, where did we, maybe that's still in the high school commons. The cafeteria, but it will not be in here next Monday night. So just want to give that heads up because there's an event happening here for junior high. Welcome back here Monday night. So shared spaces, sharing is caring. Okay, ending on a positive note here. All right, let's go ahead and take care of our two final motions then. I'll do the first one. I move that we approve the raise package for admin and classified as previously approved for certified. Is that okay, Cindy? Okay.
Second.
Susan has seconded. All those in favor of approving that, please say aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Then we have the personnel report. If someone would like to make that motion. Spreading it out.
I'll move we approve the personnel report as presented.
Second.
Andy moved and Tony seconded to approve the personnel report as presented. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. We don't have Phil here to make the motion to adjourn, so would someone else like to take that on this evening?
I move that we adjourn.
It's been moved that we adjourn.
I'll second.
And Chris has seconded. Carrie moved, Chris seconded. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Meeting adjourned 8:17.